Hello, manufacturers, makers, artists, and exporters. This is the second installment in our three-part series of the TLAs of trade. So TLAs are all of those three-letter acronyms that every industry has. Exporting, importing, trade has tons and tons of them. In our last installment, the first of three, we talked about how you can protect your goods and services as they're traveling around the world from the standpoint of protecting your brand, your creations. So you want to avoid those getting copied or counterfeited as those are as you're expanding through global markets. Today we're going to talk about classifying your goods and services as they're traveling around the world. So the classification question is something that you'll answer very early on in your export journey. And you're essentially answering which export controls apply. There's the EAR regulations, EAR, Export Administration Regulations. And the second major bucket is ITAR, International Traffic in Arms Regulations. If you think you have something that might be governed by ITAR, be very, very careful. Someone very clever described ITAR items as anything that goes boom, bang, or bust. So if you're exporting something like that, a military weapons technology, something that could be a defense article used in any sort of military or security application, you want to be very, very sure that you have a robust ITAR policy at your company. You need to be researching every single product each time for the requisite compliance to be sure that you're following all the rules. They're incredibly important and have a lot of teeth. You could get in a lot of trouble if you're getting those wrong. So in today's video, I'm talking about the EAR regulations primarily. That's sort of everything else is the shorthand. That's an oversimplification, obviously, but it's essentially everything else that's not a defense article or used in a security setting. So the Department of Commerce administers these regulations. Your export compliant officer, the person you've designated in your organization when you've made the decision to begin exporting your products and services overseas, is going to help you with that classification. They're going to memorialize all of the research they've done to decide which bucket, which classification your goods fall under. Again, they're documenting all of this. They're saving screenshots of any research they've done. Even if no results are found, for example, your export compliance officer, your ECO, is recording all of that so that you can go back and prove to anyone who might ask questions that you did your due diligence in pursuing the correct classification. And just remember that every single person in the transaction, from you all the way through the ultimate receiving party, has responsibility for getting all of these classifications and coding correct. So after you've decided which classification applies, again, ITAR, much more complicated, much more scrutiny, and then the EAR regulations, kind of everything else. Still quite a bit of scrutiny, you have to be very careful, but not quite as potentially risky as exporting something that's a defense article. So finding the right harmonized tariff code under the HTS, the Harmonized Tariff System, is really important. This is how something like this linen shirt I'm wearing gets to Spain or Italy or Thailand and is assigned the proper customs and tariff treatment at the border. So something I learned in connection with doing a little bit of research for this video is that linen is not the same as cotton. Cotton comes from, of course, the cotton plant. Linen comes from the flax plant. That may seem like a distinction without a difference, but it actually is an important difference in the HTS, in the Harmonized Tariff System. So cotton is one thing, linen is a completely different, a different coding system. It does make a difference, and you need to get it right. This shirt, if we're using this as an example, everything about it triggers a potentially different code under the HTS. So it's linen, not cotton. It's designed for women, not men. It has buttons. It has a collar. All of these features actually do make a difference and determine how the receiving country is going to assign taxes, tariffs, and duties to this shirt. Every exporter wants those taxes, tariffs, and duties to be as low as possible, and certainly your customer, your end user in the country where you're sending them wants those customs, duties, tariffs to be as low as possible. So be careful and get that code right, and everything will sail through customs on the receiving end. In our next and final part of our three-part series, we're going to talk about due diligence, knowing your customer. So one of the TLAs we'll talk about is the CCL, the Commerce Control List. So you want to be very careful that you're sending your goods and services to someone who is not a party or an entity that the U.S. government has on a list. And certainly you're not sending it to a country that we typically do not do business with. So final installment, due diligence. I hope you'll tune in for it. Thank you so much.